Tatum should.
Bringing up Jayson Tatum, has the gap closed between him and Luka?
I've been trying to tell him, OG.
It has closed, but I think Luka's still a better player.
The defensive aspect.
I think he is too.
OG, I don't think you can say it yet until the playoffs.
We scored 30 on Luka just the other night.
Who's we? Your team is
clearly
clearly better.
As a team collectively, we had 30 when he was primary defender.
Well,
his defense is dog shit.
And Tatum the other way, I think he
Luka
allowed
is
6 points all night.
He's such an offensive machine that it's.
He is, but Tatum's still
Tatum
averaging
not?
30 while being one of the best defenders in basketball.
I think I said this shit on the playback. They're just two different type of archetype players. Like Luka's a backpacker. Tatum is more of a two-way type of like Luka can willingly carry an offense to a top 10 offense all season. I don't think Tatum can do that with the type of pieces Luka can. But if you give him a team, now that's a different conversation where they look like the best team in the league. As opposed to Luka, you just put a bunch. He's like LeBron. You put a bunch of guys with him.
Or Harden,
he puts them in Harden. He puts them in. They gonna always be around.
Because offensively, he's gonna be able to do some shit that no one else can do.
Playmaking is just as valuable at defense to a degree in this NBA. So when you're Luka and you can give it 35 and then put your guys in success and get like 10, 11 assists, that closes the gap between somebody who defends at a high level and can score.
Tatum and Luka aren't in the same conversation when it comes to playmaking.
Same with defense, but that's why it closes the gap.
It's still Tatum can still playmake at a very high level.
Yes.
The defense, it's not close.
It's not, but the playmaking isn't either. Luka's generational.
Fair.
But Tatum has a way to catch him because he can be a better playmaker.
But the thing is,
Rib, would you say? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, OG, I feel like we're gonna say the pretty similar things. Maybe not. You said it perfectly. Yes, Luka is leaps and bounds better than Tatum as a playmaker. But even still, Tatum is a great playmaker. Can you say that Luka is a great defender?
I don't think Tatum's a great playmaker.
Really? Come on.
Tatum's
Well,
not a great player. He's a good one.
I think the thing that we have a problem with, Rib, is when you say playmaker, what do you mean playmaking? Because playmaking isn't just distributing the basketball.
No,
playmaking is a number of different things. When you talk about,
I'm getting emotional. I'm getting emotional because when we sat up here 2 weeks ago,
we did.
No, you told me that I was tripping.
It wasn't me. It must have been him.
It was not me.
I know exactly what I don't remember who said it, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Me and Drew have had multiple conversations about playmaking being more than just passing.
So when we talk about playmaking, Rev, we don't just talk about a guy just distributing the basketball and getting other guys shots. We're talking about a guy in Jayson Tatum who, number one, has become a better wing defender. Him becoming a better wing defender, he speeds up the offense because he's creating turnovers. That's playmaking, right? So his ability to get to the basket and beat up on big guys. When he beats up on big guys and gets them fouls, now they got to go to the bench. That's playmaking. So those are other things that you involve in playmaking as opposed to just, I'm getting this guy a shot. I'm getting that guy a shot. When I'm on the wing and I'm defending and I'm able to speed up our offense, when I'm on the wing and not just defending, when I'm help defense, when I'm in here rebounding, these are things that are playmaking. When I get loose balls and I extend our offense, that's playmaking. Those things, playmaking is not just distributing the basketball and I'm just getting Tim Hardaway Jr. a shot or I'm getting Christian Wood a shot. Because if that's playmaking, then there has to be more to it than that. It has to be more to it than that.
That's a fair point, but I think when we talk about Luka, like in regards to him, everything Tatum can do, Luka can do just as well offensively, if not better. I think outside of three-point shot, Tatum has a better three-point shot, but talk about playing from the post, I think it's similar. Talking about driving to the basket, Luka has that from the mid-range. Luka's a better mid-range shooter as well. As a finisher, Luka's better as well. I think defenses collapse more towards Luka, and he creates more opportunities for his teammates. Because Luka's in a position where you don't have to respect the guys around him to the degree you have to respect Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Al Horford,
That's why they're not crashing.
etc.
That's why they're not crashing on Tatum the way that they crash on Luka.
We still do.
They still crash, but it's just with Luka, you don't respect those guys as much. So there's added defensive attention.
When Luka was gone, the starting lineup put up 27 points
it's not
against
that
the Rockets.
Good. They're spot up shooters, so they're relegated to do a specific thing when that certain guy is there. They're not like you can't. Tatum goes out, you still have Jaylen Brown that can create. Smart to a degree can make looks.
Oh, listen,
Brogdon can do that. Dallas has made a team where they put spot up shooters around Luka, not guys who can really outside of Dinwiddie and Wood. Who Wood isn't. I don't know what his minutes are up and down.
Wood and Hardaway are good bench pieces. That's what they are.
Like they put guys that fit Luka's game, which is spot up shooters. They don't put guys that can create Boston is.
There's only two creators on the Dallas Mavericks. Dinwiddie and Luka.
Even in the playoffs, they still guarded Tatum similar to Luka. Maybe not as much gravitated, but still, you trap Tatum. They forced him to be a passer, and that's why he had so many turnovers. They forced him to make plays for others. That was the game plan and the scheme on Tatum, and making him shoot that broke ass mid range.
Game one.
I just had to throw that out there.
That was rude. Game one.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, OG. Go ahead.
Which, by the way, has improved this season.
Yes. And his post game. His post game.
Well, I mean, the midi proves.
Which has improved, and the reason why you saw him the way you saw him in the finals was because he was so wrapped up in offense, and when his offense wasn't going, you saw him disappear. And I think that comes with maturity, which goes back to my original point. Luka came in way more polished than Tatum. And because Luka came in way more polished than Tatum, you're not going to get much more out of Luka than you already gotten. Tatum, on the other hand, there is a better upside. Number one, on the defensive side of the basketball, you see it improving. You see his ability to distribute. You see his ability to play make. All of those things come in. You see those things improving. Luka, I think that we've seen we're probably gonna get better seasons out of Luka, but I think that we've seen the best of him. I've always felt like by year 5. This is who this guy is.
There's a brand new fantasy app. It's called Boom Fantasy. You got over-unders, player props. You got matchups. This player versus that player. That's personally my favorite. And long shots. You can win 40 times your money. And if I'm not mistaken, Joel, NBA is coming soon.
Yes, sir. NBA will be in the app in the next 10 days or so. I believe opening night is October 19th, so we'll have stuff up a few days beforehand. That's going to be fun because we have it every night. You don't have to wait till Monday, Thursday.
Did you get your code? The league pass?
I did get my code for league pass.
I got my code too.
Yep, that's amazing.
That's from 2K, right?
Yes.
That's tough.
Amazing.
That's fire.
So if you guys haven't already, download the Boom Fantasy app right now. Link is in our description or in the caption wherever you're watching.
MVP.
Tatum was deemed one of the most polished prospects coming in a while.
But
so that's saying a lot.
Even with saying that, Luka, if this is the best he's going to be, this is a top 3
Hall
player
of Fame
in the
player.
world.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a top 3 player in the NBA.
Different type of animal.
Is he better than Jokic?
I think they're similar. Yeah.
One guy is just a wing.
Is Luka better than Steph?
No.
So is he better than Giannis?
No.
So right now he's probably it's
3.
So are you definitively saying that he's better than Jayson Tatum?
Will Tatum be better than Giannis though?
No.
Probably not.
Or Steph. He'll never be as good as Steph.
Unless Steph just declines.
Steph.
Well, I'm talking about Steph right now.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
He's going to be way better than him.
I mean, still, but you got to think Tatum is defensively is doing things
and
that
also,
Luka's
Steph,
not going to be able to do. That
Steph's
Steph's not
It's
going
a
to be able to do.
defensive upside.
Yes.
Steph Curry is a great example. He doesn't. You can argue, Tatum's a better two-way player, but Steph's offense just supersedes anything Tatum does. He's a walking microwave.
Steph is a better offensive player than Luka.
Yeah,
Steph is also a better
for
defender
sure.
than Luka.
But Luke, the gap
it
between
shouldn't be, but it's true.
The gap.
Is Steph a better offensive player than Luka, or is he a better scorer than Luka?
Yeah, that's
he's a better scorer.
I said offensive, and I knew.
But also Steph doesn't have the ball like
you
Luka.
You gotta understand how like the shit Steph does, like
because that is playmaking.
Steph coming off a screen and two people going to him, and then the other guy getting open. That should be a form of him being a playmaker. Like that.
It is.
That's added. Like the shit Steph does without the ball
His
and
gravity.
with the ball, is accounted for like what Luka does just on ball. Like it's a different type. That's why he's viewed so high because his off ball shit is ridiculous. I think offensively, like they're different type of offensive players. One is a heliocentric guy, another's kind of an off ball. It's really just about preference. I lean Steph because efficiency and the fact that he's a walking microphone. Well, but like just offensively,
it leads to winning basketball.
And he's a 3-level scoring from 3 mid-range finishing. He's just percentage-wise just different. Being at 6'3", but
what I will say about in terms of like Luka's playmaking versus Tatum, and I'll even throw in Jokic grouping in him with Luka, is you can see how defenses play them and the different type of schemes. With Nikola Jokic, we saw in the Clippers series that they were not doubling him.
Stupid.
Because they know that if you double, he's going to make the right pass right away. There's no doubt about it. There's a reason why teams don't double Jokic and they double Embiid, because they know Embiid struggles with that. Same thing with Luka and Tatum. You don't see teams throwing doubles at Luka that often. Usually the game, like in the Warriors series, it was let's just stay like glue on these wing players and let's just let Luka do what he does. He's gonna score regardless. Let's just not let these open 3-point shots happen. And with Jayson Tatum, it was not like that. Like they will double Tatum. They will force him to make those passes.
Dallas did that a lot just the other night, but Tatum looked comfortable doing it. There was a couple times he ran out of it, ran the right passes. But I think we could say the gap between Luka and Tatum that everyone thought was this huge gap last year is definitely closing.
Because Tatum was a top 10 player fact, maybe 9
at
or 10.
At the end of last year.
And Luka was 4, 5, or 6. So I don't think the gap, like in terms of the top 10, the gap is
people
put
were
Luka
chatting top like 2.
They were chatting with him being better than Curry.
Yes.
Okay, that's fair. I'm just saying from the consensus, like the people who know ball, I think pretty comfortably, if you're top 10, the gap isn't big regardless. I think
now, there's a difference between being that 10 and 3
but I don't think
the
gap. I'm saying is the gap can be achieved. Is what I'm saying. Like as opposed to a top 5 player to a top 20 player.
Jimmy Butler was around that top 10.
Is
he gonna? He's not gonna achieve that gap.
Jimmy Butler.
And it's not. Also, I'm glad you mentioned that part because there was a time. I mean, when James after the 15-16 season, he was the number 1 player in the world. Now the number 7 player, the gap was like this between him and James.
That's LeBron though.
But that's the point. The point is when you're in the top 10, Riv, there is a significant gap that may not be able to be achieved. So the difference between this situation is Luka and Tatum. That gap is closer than people think. Not only is it closer than people think, it is closing.
Like the gap between Giannis and Embiid, it's pretty significant in my opinion.
This is how I'll describe it.
Was the gap between Embiid and the Joker, was it significant to you?
Last year,
without a doubt.
You think so?
Yeah,
I guess
without a doubt.
Significant.
Last year there was significant.
I've said it. I've said this before.
That's why I said Giannis. Because that's why I said Giannis.
I've said this before. The gap between Jokic and Embiid is what the gap once was between Steph and Dame, and probably still is when Dame was the second point guard in the league.
Not that Jokic is bad on defense.
I can get with that logic. Joel, I can definitely get with that. There was a stretch between Dame and Curry where people talked about Dame, but it wasn't close.
Yeah. It's still that stretch.
It's still you
bad.
take Jokic. Yes, you take
I'm a
Jokic
huge Dame fan.
10 out of 10 times. Mm-hmm. But even in those 10 out of 10 times, it's still a competition. Jokic is going to win every time, but you cannot slight Embiid.
Compared to Jokic, I will.
Jokic is crazy. Jokic is amazing.
Tatum was single-handedly jump for
I'll describe the Tatum gap like this. Last season, the gap between Luka and Tatum was the gap between Luka and Paul George. Paul George and Tatum were kind of like in a similar tier. This year, I now view Tatum more so like how I would once view the gap between Luka and Kawhi, if they're even like, it's very similar. I think Tatum is now went from being a 1B to like a certified 1A. He's like Kawhi.
No, he is in that tier of without a doubt superstar.
How?
Wait, I mean, he's without a doubt a superstar.
He's the MVP.
No, I think when you're a 1B, you're already a superstar.
No, but people.
So Paul George is a superstar?
I don't have Paul George as a 1B anymore.
I mean, you could argue he was.
I think he was teetering. Like he was always teetering.
Riv, that's what Tatum was, though.
And we've had conversations.
No, I think once Tatum went to the finals, 1B is like
Jimmy
Embiid,
Butler last year.
Tatum.
Tatum. I mean,
it was Kawhi before he stopped playing basketball.
Embiid's 1B.
I think Embiid was a 1B.
You thought Kawhi's a 1B?
I thought 1A. This was before. This is like before this season. I don't change my list 20 games in. 1A for me was Giannis, Steph. It was Luka, LeBron,
Jokic,
KD. Those were my 1A guys. Like guys who those were my 1A. 1B was like Embiid, Tatum.
Embiid second place MVP
it was Kawhi
2 years in a row.
It was Kawhi,
so I would say Tatum instead of the Kawhi analogy. Y'all say Tatum is like KD. He's the gap, but like Luka and KD, that's the gap.
Yeah, I would probably
you're basically saying, can he be the best team on a championship team? That's at the end of the day what we're saying.
Well, most of those guys, all
KD?
the 6 guys I named outside of Luka have either an MVP or a chip.
How sure are we of that?
If Tatum gets the MVP, I will
I'm
gladly.
good with that.
I will gladly like if Tatum gets an MVP this year, I will gladly put him in 1A. It's not a big deal to me. But like the 1A guys were outside of Luka were guys who've won chips or multiple chips, or guys who have MVPs or multiple MVPs. Those were my 1A guys. Like they've had a significant gap on the league. So that's why I was like, Tatum isn't there yet, but he's getting there. He just went to the finals. He just had a great run. So that's why I was like, okay, if Tatum gets an MVP or a ring this year, how the fuck can I leave him out the 1A?
I'm good with putting Luka ahead of KD. I know you don't like that, but I'm good with putting Luka.
And I'm not even a KD guy. I just got to acknowledge that.
I'm good with putting Luka ahead of him. I am.
He's averaging a triple-double, basically, Luka.
Of course he is. He's been amazing.
And I think I think the problem that you have is you seeing KD as buckets, and we're talking about as an offensive force that Luka has been. He's in what he creates for his unit. KD is primarily buckets. Now, KD has been better defensively this year, which boils my blood, by the way. And the reason why it does is because what it shows me is that you could have been this defensive player in the past, only except you haven't been. Why have you never made an all-league defensive team, KD? Why have you never been on an all-league defensive team? One time in your career, you finished in the top 10 in Defensive Player of the Year. Once in 16 years. Why have you not been a better defender? And why do I have to see, and going into year 16, on a team that's inferior to the teams that you've been on in the past with Ibaka, not only with Ibaka, with the Defensive Player of the Year and Draymond Green, where you were better, where you could have been a Defensive Player of the Year. This is why I have such a difficult time when I hear us talking about guys being superstars, where you see it inconsistent, where you see inconsistencies with these guys on the other side of the basketball.